Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of Chewing the Fat with myself and Dean Kilby. Welcome again. Hello, hello. This week we're going to update everyone on where I'm at now because I've progressed through a couple of the phases of this protocol.
Take your top off. Go on, Trevor.
Copped enough flack for that last time.
Well, you haven't shaved your chest.
Not yet.
No.
Just trimming the edges. I haven't gone all Seinfeld yet and gone the whole thing.
You got to do another one of those poses.
Yeah. Nah, that was my only time. So we're gonna talk about that. What else can we talk about? We're going to talk about the protocol and where other people are at, and some other aspects around the coaching. Let's talk about that.
Sure.
So to update everyone to where I'm at, to start with, there's 4 phases to this protocol, and I'm on phase 3 at the moment, about to head into the last phase, which maybe we can talk about that too.
Yeah.
And it involves two-week transitional periods out of that initial phase, with reintroducing some foods and that sort of thing. And what I've noticed, which we spoke of earlier today, was the difference in bringing some carbs back into my diet now, and going from one side of the fence to the other instantaneously. You notice the change in eating those sort of foods, just in how I feel in my body. Like I've gone from immediately, feeling like I'd lost 20 kilos to a couple of days in thinking, feeling like, wow, I've just put it all back on. And obviously I haven't. Impossible to do so. But the feeling was, I feel not bloated, but carrying more weight. My hands felt a bit fatter, I suppose you'd say. And the first thing I did was check, no, my rings still come off my fingers fine. It's all good. Why am I feeling like I'm pushing maximum density again just after a few days of eating carbs again? You want to explain that?
Yeah. So you can't. So imagine then if you just jump straight back to a sort of normal diet. And, if we go back to the beginning, it's people engaged in this kind of a protocol because they want to transform their health and they want to make a real difference to their longevity and increase the health span. And it starts off, it's interesting. It starts off like people want more energy and they're looking out into the future, and it's one of concern. And, there may be a family member who's dealt with a parent who's dealt with or dealing with ill health, chronic disease, and you want to look after yourself so you don't deal with all of that. So that's where it starts off. At some point along the way, people get obsessed with the numbers. They're like, oh, it's not about the weight, Dean. I really want to transform my health. Then they get obsessed with their numbers, or, I don't see my obliques yet. And, I want some striations on my glutes. It's like, oh God, I'm not that guy. I'm not saying that was you, Trevor, but
I went there a little bit.
I know, you did.
I want to see abs. I want to see abs.
So then once you hit that ideal, like that target, and more than just there being an ideal weight or biological parameters that we measure, whatever it might be, it may even include blood parameters. You want to reverse some stuff that's obvious in your blood work, and we do that in partnership with your GP, etc. But you want to have a real breakthrough in honoring your words. So if your target weight is 60, 70, 80, whatever it might be, then you have a breakthrough in actually fulfilling on what you promised. And that in and of itself is a state change, where you're no longer at the effect of whatever your health, your genetics, whatever story you have about why you haven't been able to transform your health. So when you honor your promises and agreements, you give more power to your word, and you not your body. You become a bigger person. The body becomes smaller, but who you get to be for yourself is bigger, right? And you want to create a bigger life. And we can get into that in a little bit. But in terms of the physiological aspects of the protocol, you don't want to just jump straight back to a normal diet. So all these people who fantasize about, oh, I can't wait to get back to how I used to eat. I'm like, no, I don't want you ever going back to that. That's what got you in trouble, right? We want you to create a whole new future here. And so we want to reintroduce carbohydrates in a very controlled way. So firstly, we started to increase the calories that you're consuming, and with whole foods. And that gets your body processing more calories. It also gets your gut working a little bit more. And then we introduced carbohydrates just at breakfast in a very controlled way, carbohydrates and fats. We just want to reactivate your pancreas and spike the insulin in the morning only. And then the next day. And then what that allows over a couple of weeks is the restoration of your muscle and liver glycogen stores.
Right.
So when you start to reintroduce carbohydrates in your system, it's spiking your insulin, and then your tissues, your muscles and everything is now having to learn to utilize that amount of insulin to respond to that amount of insulin. Whereas previously, if people are obese, then insulin goes up, but it needs to be high for your tissue to respond to it. Now, insulin sensitivity has improved. Now, with carbohydrates, you're eating that. There's a couple of things your gut's got to get used to eating that as well. There'll be another reconstitution of your gut microbiome. Okay. With the glycogen being stocked back into your muscles and liver comes fluid as well. The water that you lost at the initial stage of the weight loss, in the first week in particular, you'll start to put that back on again.
Mm. And that's amazing because, I was talking to someone else today about that side of it, and they're saying, but you drink so much more water than you probably normally would anyway. How do you go from, losing water to keeping water, but you're drinking more water and while you're losing, how does that all work?
Yeah, you piss a lot more too.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So it's just going flushing through you. It takes a lot to burn through all that fat.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah.
So as we said previously, the fat gets metabolized and you breathe out 84% of it in the form of carbon dioxide, and 16% of it is water. And you'll resorb some of that, and you'll sweat some of that, and you'll urinate some of that. But the process of lipolysis, the breaking up of the fat such that you can then metabolize the fatty acids and utilize it as a fuel source, requires water. So, you have to stay hydrated. But now, because you're not eating carbohydrates, your insulin levels are low. So your kidneys don't retain all that fluid and sodium and stuff. So you piss a lot more.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And then in terms of your feelings that you said it's not real that you put all the weight back on, but you have this feeling. Yeah, that's why you can't trust your feelings.
Exactly right. But what it also stood out though was that it does, after that first, the initial part of the protocol where you get to your goal weight and all that sort of stuff. And in the back of your mind, am I going to be able to sustain this? Am I going to, once I get back to normality, am I just going to put all the weight back on and all that sort of thing? But what's showing up now is that just that feeling alone makes you a lot more aware of what you're eating, and how much you're eating. And, like Lan cooked a lunch for me this morning, which was all the stuff I'm supposed to be eating at lunch. But I looked at it and I just went, look, this is awesome. And, you know what she's like. She's just a machine. I said, but just halve that, please. Because, you just feel like, a tubbed unit when you eat that much now. And B, there's just that, because of that feeling with eating the carbs again now, you're just way more aware of how much you're putting into your, shoving down your throat. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I like the, go back to normal, or there's a new normal.
Yeah.
It's like coming out of lockdown.
Mm.
And if you get complacent and if you think, oh, it's all done and I'm sorted now and it's fixed, and you get cocky and arrogant and think that this won't affect me anymore, and the urgency's gone, and you're getting all this attention from people because you've lost the weight, and there's a couple of things that could happen. You get cocky and arrogant and think you don't have to be responsible for this machine. Like, this protocol is not a vaccine against obesity. You start being irresponsible with your eating habits again, guess what's going to happen? Your body's going to do exactly what it's designed to do. It's perfect. There's nothing wrong with your body. It's doing what it's designed to do. So you got to respect that. And if you get, the other thing that might happen is you reject your body, because now you're getting all this attention from people, and you don't know how to be with it, and you trash it, and you sabotage. It's like the experience of shooting yourself in the foot. So you don't want to come out of this thing irresponsibly. It's like, if you do, then you end up like there's a second wave. That's what happens. If you're not responsible, you think, oh, it's all fixed and sorted, then all it takes is one little, in the case of a pandemic, one person who's a super spreader, boom, all of a sudden you're dealing with not just a second wave, but potentially something that's even worse than the first.
Yeah.
In the case of metabolic health, there's enough metabolic flexibility for you to be able to go on a diet and turn your body into a fat burning machine, right? So your body preferentially burns fat now, okay? And so that's what I mean by metabolic flexibility. It went from a carbohydrate burning machine to a fat burning machine, and we altered your enzymatic structure and your cells to be able to handle that. So you want to be responsible for that. You can't just jump back to eating what you want, however you want. No, you still got to be a grown up about it. You still got to be mature, and you got to remain on protocol. The protocol's far from done. Losing the weight, getting to your target body, that's just the beginning. Nothing's done yet. That's just, as far as I'm concerned, that's the easy bit.
Yeah.
Why? You didn't have to think. You just did what I told you to do.
Well, because I'm really, you get really focused on, okay, I'm doing this. You're all excited. You're all worried about getting it right, not mucking it up, and you just go hell for leather into that first part of it. But as you say, it's, and especially for someone like me, I've always been, had the view of I'm good at everything, but I'm never the best at anything. And, my dad used to tell me that when I was a kid. And I've always gotten to 80% of doing things really well and then going, well, that's enough. I've gotten to 80, I'm better than that 80%. That's all. The extra 20 are just freaks and they're the best at everything. And I'm never the best at anything. So that'll do me. So, that come up a couple of times where I was just at night by myself thinking I could just smash 9 more of those protein bars, no dramas at all. And then just being, yeah, but there's that whole, that's enough. I've gotten to the point where, as you say, I'm getting the compliments, I'm getting the, you've lost weight, that'll do, that's enough, you don't need to lose any more, all that sort of thing. So who cares if I eat another 9, protein
Yeah, human
bars?
beings, more than anything, more than love itself, what human beings really want for is admiration. And when you're getting the admiration, either, you demonstrate the potential for something, and then people go, wow, you're the one, you're the one that's going to do it. And you've demonstrated that you've got the potential and your potential is recognized. Then you might experience like shooting yourself in the foot, like not actually following through with it. Or you get the admiration because you're looking fabulous, and then you just trash it. You're like, I've got it. Like, my motivation's gone. Or you just may not even experience a sense of fulfillment. What's that about? So more than love, people want for admiration. And what gets you admiration more than anything, well, let me say it, what gets admiration faster than anything is suffering. If you can just express your suffering and let people know, oh, I've really I've had to sacrifice a lot for this, and you can't even acknowledge people these days without them saying, oh yeah, but let me tell you what that took. And it's like, oh fuck. Just like, it's not arrogant. If I say to someone, you're awesome, and they go, I know, thanks, I'd love that.
Yeah.
It's like, why not?
Yeah.
Why not? So not to be like arrogant and obsessed with yourself, but to own it. And I don't mind a bit of cockiness, but certainly this whole obsession with suffering, and there's a belief that you have to work hard to accomplish anything in life. It involves a lot of hard work. And one of the interesting things that people really have to deal with or are challenged by on this protocol is you'll lose 20 kilos. How much have you lost? 25, something like that?
I haven't
25 kilograms. And people might go, oh, wow, you've worked hard for this. And you're sitting there going, no, I didn't. It wasn't hard work. So you might have this experience of being somewhat of a fraud.
Yeah.
And then reject it. Reject your accomplishment, reject your opportunity to be satisfied with where you're at. And it's just, I request that you forgive your dad for saying whatever he said.
Yeah.
You're the one that decided it. He's informing me of the truth.
Yeah, exactly right.
You can be responsible for that.
Yeah.
I mean, let his soul rest in peace.
For sure.
And I had the same thing with my brother and sister. When I was little, they used to tell me I was a mistake, and life was so much better before I came along. And for a long time, I was at the effect of that, thinking they did that to me. No, they were just snot-nosed teenagers. They just said whatever they said. I was the one that decided that they were informing me of the truth. And then I lived like that was real. And we've all got these hang-ups and stories about what we can and can't accomplish, what is for us, what's not for us, what is possible, what's not possible. And these are the barriers that even prevent people from starting something.
Yeah.
Take this protocol, for example, the number of people that contact me and then, I don't know if I'm ready yet. I'm like, how would you know when you are ready anyway? Here's how you know you're ready. Money shows up in my bank account and you're calling me to schedule your first appointment.
Now you're ready. Exactly right.
I mean, that's, there is no when I'm ready. It's like, is it somewhere along the way, people discover that their body is not for them to mess with. Here's the bit that there's a misunderstanding when people say your body is your temple. It's not your temple. It's a temple. Many people visit temples, many different people with different commitments come together, that the temple's meaningful to many different people. So if your body is a temple, who does it belong to? Not just you. It belongs to your family, your loved ones, your organizations, your community, your society, what the commitments that you say you're up to in the world. That's what your body belongs to, not you. And when people trash their body, it's like, you can't smoke and go, it's my body, I can do what I want. It's like, you're an asshole. You've got kids. It doesn't belong to you. It belongs to them. It belongs to the people that you've committed to serving and being of service to.
Yeah.
It belongs to the game that you've declared that you're up to playing in life, the impossible tasks that you want to use your life to fulfill on. The spirit of that game, that's what your body belongs to. And it's like when you borrow something from another person, you borrow a car or something, you take damn good care of it because you know it's not yours.
Mm. Yeah. On that
So
on
you go,
that note,
you go.
something else that came up when you were talking about all that stuff was the what happens after, and how the protocol goes forever. One of the other things I'm getting now, and I've spoken about it briefly in the last couple of videos, but I spoke about it today again with a friend that's a few weeks in on the protocol as well. And it was about, when can we have a drink? And, once you come off the protocol, so we can have a drink at gigs or whatever. And it's like, well, here's the thing I'm seeing though, and I would never have seen this before. And even if you'd have told me, I would have gone, no, I conquered this years ago. When I was younger, I used to throw up before I'd play sport on the weekend, or when I started playing music and doing the first gigs and whatever. Anything where I was, playing football on the weekends, before the game before we ran out of the dressing sheds and out into the field, I'd be in the toilet throwing up.
Wow.
And I used just to get that nervous about stuff. And, when I started playing music, the first, few gigs or whatever, I'd walk in as we were just about to walk on, and the singer would be like, where did Trev go? And the drummer would go, oh, he's probably out the back spewing. Yeah, it was. I remember the first gig I was at Fairfield, out in the garden in front of KFC, throwing my guts up because I was just freaking out about getting up and playing in front of people. And over time, I'd overcome it. I used to spend 10 minutes in the shower getting ready before a game or to play or whatever, and I'd be talking to myself going, why get nervous? It's a waste of energy. You love it when you're there. You feel great when you get off. You wonder why the hell you got nervous in the first place for. So why bother spending energy on that? Why get nervous? Don't get nervous. And whether that was, the talk got me out of it, or whether the talk was the distraction to stop me from getting nervous, eventually I didn't need to be doing that anymore. And I thought I'd just, there was nothing there for me about that anymore. I could just go do anything, and who cares, But then what I'm seeing lately is, and now especially with the music's starting to come back now with the restrictions being eased and whatever, there's still a tenseness there, I suppose you'd call it, on the way to and getting to a gig. Not that I'm nervous, I don't feel butterfly or anything like that, but I do notice like there's something coming that there's a response to that. Normally I'll have a couple of beers to knock the edge off.
Right.
And then by the same token, if I'm excited about stuff, after a gig, you're up, you've had to be up to do the gig, or, do whatever you were doing, and you come home and you're all happy, you've got some great news or whatever. And to keep that going, I'll start smashing food and have a couple of drinks. And it's this weird cycle that I've seen, that I go through, that I said to the guy I was talking to today, at the gigs now, I can recognize that that's there and say, we can have a beer, no dramas, but I don't need to have 6 beers to knock that edge off the nervousness or the anxiousness or whatever about playing, because we're going to be playing anyway. We both love it once we start. And who cares if you feel a bit nervous? It means this means something to you. And isn't that what we do it to start with? You're always after, I want the passion back. I want this, I want that. Well, that's part of it. Yes. It's a great thing, not something we have to knock on the head and dumb down.
Yeah, there was that sense of play and discovery and adventure and being on the edge when we were young. We all want for that. We weren't intoxicated back then.
Mm.
For the most part. Maybe when you get to 16 or something, it's like, you sneak those. But I was the same, and I was a binge drinker. I mean, gosh, I got a mate of mine who's you know, given me the privilege of coaching him and contributing to his health. And we grew up together, and he's just an amazing, amazing guy and very successful lawyer and stuff. And anyway, we were having a chat about the younger days and how I used to drink and excessively. And he thought it was hilarious. I'd get drunk really fast, throw up, and then keep going longer than anybody else. You know, now the problem was I couldn't remember a lot of the night,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like, why do that? And at some point I realized that it was dealing with or trying to numb as an experience of guilt, particularly at university and latter years of uni. And, you know, I wasn't supposed to be out socializing, having fun. I should be in the lab trying to find a cure for diabetes to help my brother.
Mm.
And it was just that extraordinary sense of guilt that I would then drown out with excessive amounts of alcohol. And then at some point I was like 27 or something, and just realized the complete insanity of doing that. And the whole guilt just disappeared. It's like, you know, I had a conversation with my brother actually, and I said to him, I had this realization, you know, as I just shared with my brother and sister. It's like they told me I was a mistake and it was so much better before I came along. And, you know, did the intellectual effort, and it's like, hang on a minute, they had my brother, sister, then 8 years passed, and then me. So I started to relate to them as the mistakes. And that my brother had type 1 diabetes was like even more evidence that he was a mistake, right? And I rang him up and just, I was 27 years old, and I remember sharing with him, I said, you know, his name is Brighton, and I said, you know, you're the inspiration for my life's work. It's because of you I do what I do. And I've never ever shared that with you. Mm. You know, he said, yeah, I knew that. That's who I was to him, like the little brother that's out there trying to make a difference. And I've been relating to him my whole life like he was a mistake. And such a jerk. Anyway, got to have, because, you know, prior to that moment, had you asked me, do you love your brother? And yeah, sure, it's my brother, I love him. Not really, never really involved him in my life, never really participated with him. But after that, I got to create a mateship with my brother. And he died 6.5 years after that. So in 2011, he passed away. And I got to go to the funeral of a brother that, you know, I was proud to call my brother versus someone that I resented and considered a mistake, you know. And it's, you know, we've got to be willing to own both how much of a jerk we are, in that we don't live an authentic life. We live in an unreality created from stories that we made up about stuff that happened when we were kids. It's not even happening now. Yet what persists over time is the stories that we made up. Yeah. And that leaves us constrained. And then if you can not only own how much of a jerk you can be, but also you've got to own equally that you are bigger than you think. You're capable of way more than you know. You're an extraordinary possibility. And, you know, if you can own both, then really, when we were young and people used to say to us, the world is your oyster, that experience of life, that it was really open and everything was available. And at some point, everything closed down. And then, you know, your life became like, went from this to this. This is my life, and this is what's possible, and that's not possible. And when you start to realize the life that you're living and the size of the life and the size of the games that you're playing within that life, you realize also that your body, your physicality, your size, your fitness capabilities, all of it is perfectly correlated to that life. your body allows you to fulfill on that life. And I think we're all a little bit disillusioned. Well, when I say a little, I mean a lot. We're all disillusioned in the thinking that if I just fix this one thing about me, then my life I'll be able to get up to what I really ought to be doing. No, you're doing what you're doing. Get responsible for that. And people want to transform and have a new body. Well, given that your body is perfectly correlated to the size of the game that you play in life and the size of your commitments, then you've got to take responsibility for that. If your body's like in a state of dysfunction and it's not capable of fulfilling on what you really want with the energy levels and the sense of vitality and your ability to be present and just say no and just be there with people and have a great time anyway and give your word to being the life of the party and discover what that takes and what it looks like to give up all your inhibitions and give up all your concerns for looking bad and embarrassment and just have fun. And that kind of life, if you want a body that can fulfill on that, then you've got to create bigger, more compelling, enlivening games.
Yeah.
And people think I'll create that life when I get the perfect body. No, that's like saying, Trevor, you're gonna train really, really hard for the next 4 years, and then we'll see if we send you to the World Championships. Are you gonna do it? Are you gonna train with any real integrity? No. But if I said to you, hey, Trevor, guess what? We're sending you in 4 years' time to the World Championships. Get your shit in order. Start training. Get sorted. You're like, holy crap. You're not gonna eat like crap. You're gonna train when your coach says. You're gonna do it with everything that you've got. You're not going to quit. You're going to the World Championships. So you've got to create it. It's like life is happening. Now. This is it. This isn't a practice life.
Yeah.
So, we're transitioning you through phase 3 into phase 4, but that's where the rubber really hits the road. That's where it's going to take a hell of a lot more intellectual effort. It takes a hell of a lot more discipline than people, anticipate.
I think I've exhausted.
Losing 30 kilos is no freaking big deal. Literally, just do what I say. It just happens. You don't have to think. In fact, your thinking is a detriment to that process. What qualifies you to think? Like if you got yourself that fat in the first place, it's like, don't trust your thoughts. Put your life in my hands. And just do and then you'll get there. Now I've got to train you to manage that body, not me. And over the course of phase 4, that stabilization process, I eventually make myself redundant, where you're left totally independently responsible for your own well-being for the rest of your life.
Yeah, cool. And I was, like I said, I was interested, let's say that, to see how that happens. But like I say, going through that second and third phase and reintroducing some foods and seeing the difference that makes to how you feel and noticing more about what I'm eating and what I'm eating with what else I'm eating and all those sort of things, it makes perfect sense. Like it just sets you up to eat for health for the rest of your life.
And you're going to be way more sensitive to those sensations and,
like I said,
you're going to notice a hell of a lot more.
2 days on carbs, and it was like one night I could almost feel my heart beating through the knuckles in my hand. I was like, what the hell? My hands are throbbing. What the hell is going on? That's when I was checking. Oh, no, my rings still come on and off. That's all cool. Went to the mirror, lifted the shirt. No, it's all cool. I haven't just magically put on 20 kegs.
What have you been sniffing, dude? What do you got? What happens when you hang out at that dyno of yours?
Sometimes the fans don't work and I've got to suck the fumes out of the bike myself.
Yeah. But phase 4 is an interesting one because there's a whole, like I said, world to be responsible for when you've got now freedom of choice. And there's a lot more. It's easy, like say for a period of time, I don't want people taking themselves away from life. I want you to participate more.
Yeah.
But to handle the dysfunction, you've got to be unreasonable. You kind of, you know what, I'm just not going to go to that party, or I'm not going to hang out with the guys at the pub, or whatever it is. And I mean, you know, it's easy to be like that in the middle of a pandemic. It's kind of like, you know, so.
But I haven't done
If you're
anything
not going,
like that. I have not said no to anything. And like you said before,
yeah,
it's about, okay, now who do I need to be at this party or at this barbecue or at this gig or at this whatever? Drinking
exactly.
water and eating celery and off a banquet table. Look, it's just a different way of being.
Yeah. You know, and I don't recommend that people deliberately challenge themselves just to see how tough and strong they are, and don't go sit in McDonald's for 3 hours and I just wanted to see, Dean, just how, if I had what it took.
Harassing
And
people.
it's like,
are you eating that gherkin? Thanks.
toss it this way. Like a seagull.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Cool.
But look, that's the journey, and what stops people from actually starting is a fear of failing. Because they've failed in the past. You know, why you're so alive and so willing and a yes to life when you're young is because you haven't failed much.
Yeah.
The more failures you have, the more things close down, because you become afraid of failing again. And so you act now as if you actually will fail, and you don't want to have to deal with that because it was so devastating the last time or the first time that you failed. You don't want to experience that again. And it's like, so what are you going to do? Just keep trashing your life for the next several years and your health? And, and people justify it with, I'm here for a good time, not a long time. To me, that's about as stupid as saying, let's agree to disagree. Or, or it is what it is, thinking that that's an enlightened way of viewing it. No, that's called resigned. That's called dead. And there's so many dead people walking around in life, not passionate, not alive, not lit up by not only what they're up to in life, but who they are, and that you get to live this kind of a life. And this protocol is not just about some freaking waist circumference measurement. It's about having a breakthrough and participating in life.
Yeah.
And stop hiding behind layers of fat that protect you.
Yeah. Or the sensation of eating food and alcohol to deal with stuff. Very cool. All right. Yep.
I was just going to say, next time, you will have gone through phases 1, 2, 3, and I've set you up for phase 4 next time we speak, right? So I would love for you to share, like, what is it that you learned? What did you transform? And who are you now that you weren't before? Like, what new ways of being are available to you and for the future that weren't available to you before?
Yeah,
I think that would be brilliant for you to share.
Yeah, awesome. We'll do that next week.
Great.
Cool. Thanks, guys. As Dean said, if you're thinking about getting your health in order, if you're thinking about getting up to bigger things in life, stop putting it off. Get in contact with Dean today or tomorrow and get it done. It's now or never. Talk next week. See you guys.
See you guys.